Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christian. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good day. Wherever you are, whenever you're seeing this, I hope you are good. So guys, today we're going to be doing another collective reading. I believe I've already done a reading for you guys with my new tarot deck. If I haven't, let me introduce you to her. I'm going to be doing a lot of content about how to bond with a new deck, how to get acquainted with the new deck, because I've been really enjoying working with she. So yes, we're going to be doing a reading today for the new moon in Virgo with the partial solar eclipse that we had on yesterday, September 21st. You know, a solar eclipse is very strong energy, as well as a new moon. This energy is going to be setting us up for a lot of personal transformation, you know, new beginnings, fresh starts, realizing how we've been in our own way, realizing other things that have been in our own way. And if you have been here long enough, then you know new moons and full moons kind of have the same, you know, energy typically. The new moon is always going to be about bringing in new things, manifesting, starting over from scratch. The full moon is always going to be about releasing, stepping into emotional things, you know, intuitive energy, having things being revealed to us. So this new moon is no different, especially with it being a partial solar eclipse. You know, this is really giving us a lot of energy, a lot of push, a lot of insight, a lot of vision. You know, this should definitely be making things very clear to us. If we've been feeling like we're in any type of fog or haze or just not really understanding what's next, we should definitely be stepping into a lot of clarity right now in this next season. So let's go ahead and get into the tea, guys. We're going to get into, you know, what we can expect with this new moon in Virgo is going to be showing all of us. We've definitely already been picking up on these energies, but because it is an eclipse, these energies are going to be hanging around a little bit longer than just your typical new moon. Specifically speaking, for the next 6 months, you know, we're going to be kind of reeling from this eclipse. So I definitely think, you know, this is really just the beginning. We know that for sure. It's really just the beginning of feeling different, looking different, speaking differently about yourself, you know, even setting boundaries. You know, we're being called to be very specific about what we want, being strict with ourselves, making sure that we're letting it be known, like walking the walk, talking the talk, setting the example, leading by example in our lives. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this message. I've been doing my readings differently now. Usually I pull my cards and then get on, but this time around we've been pulling the card as we're going. So let's go ahead and get into it. Again, I'm going to be doing a video, you know, coming up about how to bond with a new deck. I'm also going to be talking about some things to know before you turn 30. A lot of the girls have been asking me for some tea about turning 30 and your frontal lobe developing. As somebody that's 30 that knows, you know, people of all ages, I don't really know if your frontal lobe is fully developed at 30. For some people, it might not kick in until they're like 76, 77. But for those of us who are coming into that frontal lobe development, we're definitely going to be getting into that and, you know, some things that you may be realizing as you're stepping into that. Also, of course, we're going to be doing private readings for the new moon in Virgo. So you guys can tap in down below. In the description box to see how you can get a reading for $30 all week. We're going to be sending those out, and it's going to be, you know, how this eclipse is showing up for you and what you can expect. And the readings have been reading. I love this deck. Like, I feel like I'm a new reader. You know what I'm saying? And if you're a reader or an intuitive person, you know how it feels when you're just stepping into those messages, when you're just stepping into those downloads. It's nothing like it. Definitely feel like I've been stepping into that right now. So let's go ahead and get into the tea, guys. I haven't pulled any cards. We're going to just pull them here together. So let's get into it. Alrighty. I guess we'll pull 3 and go from there. Do I want to pull 2 at a time or how many at a time? Let's just do 3 at a time. I love this deck. This is the Ethereal Visions Illuminated Tarot deck. She is very popular. I'm sure you guys have seen her all over Pinterest, all over everybody's feed. She's a very popular deck. Let's go ahead and get into our first 3 cards, shall we? We have the 2 of Wands. The 2 of Wands. We have the 10 of Swords. The 10 of Swords, and we have the 7 of Swords. Okay, we're coming out swinging, right? So with the 2 of Wands and the 10 of Swords, you know, This is very indicative to this new moon energy. We're starting a lot of things, but there's also a lot of powerful, painful things coming to an end, but we're also in a space of having to start from scratch, having to come up with a plan, a strategy, kind of having to really put one foot in front of the other and finally embark on this journey that maybe a lot of us have been thinking about or wanting to finally take the first steps. Like if you've been plotting on a new beginning, this is kind of going to be the energy to force you into that. And that can be painful, it can be confusing. It can be, something that just makes us second guess a lot of things. I think we always want to enter a new beginning under perfect circumstances. We always want to start something new feeling good, nothing negative around us, a good mindset. We just want everything to be on point. But sometimes we have to start in the beginning. I think most of the time we start in the beginning and we're fighting for our lives, but sometimes that gives you the grit to do what you need to do to maintain a new beginning. And also, I think it can allow us to just appreciate it more, after we are fighting for our lives, after we're really, really trying as hard as we can to make it through this one season and step into something else. I think that remembering that, having faith in that, is really, really key and really important, having that in your mind, what you're working towards, what you're doing it for, why you're not letting yourself fall by the wayside. We have to do things differently this time. We definitely have to do things differently this time. The Ten of Wands, the Ten of Swords, we know this is all about coming to the end of a very painful journey, coming to a space where you're wrapping up the challenges, the struggle, the confusion, the frustration, staying up all night, not knowing what was going on, having a million things coming at you from all angles. This is about wrapping up that season of distress and stepping into something different. But we have the Seven of Swords here, okay, which basically tells me we've been blind while we've been in this season of distress. So while you've been dealing with the things you've been dealing with, it's very possible that there's been some things happening beneath the scenes, that are going to be coming to the surface. This is an energy of things being revealed, of the truth being revealed, of people's true intentions being revealed, even your own true intentions about how you feel. Anything that isn't genuine, anything that isn't where it's supposed to be, anything that needs to just kind of be aired out is going to be aired out in this season. And even that can be very stressful when we're on this new beginning, because remember, we're taking a new path. We're starting a new journey. We're dedicating ourselves to something new for the first time in a minute. So, it's a lot that we have to do to stay on track. It's a lot that we have to do to keep our minds on track. A lot that we have to do to just make sure we're continuously putting one foot in front of the other. And, we're not going to have the luxury of just not knowing certain things anymore. I think that we wanted to maybe distract ourselves from a lot of the things that we were dealing with our goals and with our aspirations. And now that we're finally starting these things, we're going to have to deal with those things that we were trying to not deal with by setting ourselves up for success. And I think that's a really interesting metaphor or analogy, girl. Is it a metaphor or an analogy? Well, I guess it would really just be an analogy because it's really no metaphor there, but it's an analogy for, kind of turning our back on something because we think it would be more, comfortable to focus on this. And then once we get this finished, we need the thing that we've been avoiding to make it work. We need this thing that we've been avoiding, to bring it all together. Like the thing that we've been avoiding is a very big part of where we're going. It's just as important as what we've been distracting ourselves with, It's not to say that we shouldn't focus on one thing, because of course you want to make your plan. This is just as real as what you need to focus on in terms of emotions and as terms of things that are making us feel negatively. It's not to say that we have to run away from all distractions and just lock into our pain and just only experience pain. I think this is just saying, just be willing to do the work that comes after that. Be willing to do the work, be willing to show up, be willing to take advantage of what you're seeing and that it's being revealed to you now. Because I don't think these are things that we're not aware of. I don't think these are things that are going to really, really catch us off guard. If anything, it's going to be a lot of confirmation for stuff that we've already been picking up on. And the confirmation may gag us. I feel like we're going to be in a space of a lot of confirmation that will just make us feel like, oh my God, this is what I've been running from, or this is what I've been hiding from. I think it may take a while from the point of us realizing whatever this is. And maybe we'll see what this is with these next couple of cards. But I feel like, we're going to be in a space where we'll just, kind of be disappointed. Maybe even a little disappointed that it took us this long to face this thing. Maybe disappointed that we've spent all this time distracting ourselves only to end up, in the space having to face and look towards what we've been trying to run from. I think that's going to be something really big for us as well. Just kind of recognizing what's been in front of our faces this entire time. And that can be hard when we realize, like, dang, this is what I've been running from. But it's going to be a hard truth. It's not like we've been running from stuff that we're going to be like, oh, why was I running from this? Like, you're going to know why you were running from it, but that's not going to make it any easier to digest. If anything, it'll just, hurt even more, because it's like, dang, I knew I didn't want to deal with this. I knew I didn't want to have this conversation. I knew I didn't want to look into it. And that can be hard when you're on a journey to do good and feel good and think good. It can be difficult to realize, oh, dang, this person is as bad as I thought. This relationship is as bad as I thought. This conversation is gonna go, it is going as bad as I thought. This relationship is, my worst fears are coming true, and I've been avoiding this, and here it is. These things are happening. And that can be difficult, to experience. It can feel like, oh, well, pain is unavoidable. This was unavoidable all along. But it's all about how you perceive it, because it's really something you were been supposed to deal with. And now we're in a space to kind of face it once and for all, so we don't have to take it into our next chapter. And I think that's very underrated. I think we underestimate how important it is when we decide to take something into a next chapter or a new season. It's very, 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 very key what we take into our next season. Very, very key, very, very important, very critical. It's not something that will just blow by. It's not something that's not significant. It's not something that doesn't matter. It's a really, really, really big deal when you say, I'm not going to cut this off. I'm not going to stop this bad habit. I'm not going to stop talking to this person. I'm going to keep doing this while I'm stepping into my new season. You're making a declaration that you're choosing whatever this is. You're choosing the past over a new beginning. And that says a lot to karma. It says a lot to the old version of you. It says a lot to the universe. It says a lot to everything and everyone that is watching you and determining where you're going next when you choose the old things. So we have to be very, very mindful of what we're choosing and why in this season, because it's going to be easy to just continue down the path of distraction. Like, some of us have already realized something bad and we haven't even cut nobody off or did nothing about it. We're just like, damn, that's crazy. And what? Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, you realize this crazy thing, and now what? Because nothing has changed for you. You still are getting started with all of these things. So what's next? What's next? What are you going to do? What's going to happen? What's next there? We have the King of Cups. We have the Five of Cups. And we also have the Two of Pentacles. The Two of Pentacles. So with this King of Cup energy and with the Five of Cups, opening our heart, being mindful of our heart, and just having that balance, realizing that no matter how emotionally intelligent we are, we may have moments where we're focusing on things that we don't need to focus on. And we need to be able to, like I said, find that balance, have that balance, and, not let our emotions be the one thing that we can't deal with. Like, we don't want the emotional pain to be the one thing we can't face. Like, we could face not being able to pay our bills. We could face not looking how we want to look. We could face not feeling how we want to feel. We could face failing a test. We could face somebody breaking up with us. But we can't face, still having bad days and still wanting bad things, even though we know better. Even though we're in a space where that doesn't serve us anymore, we can't face the fact that we are still broken, having to walk away from these things. And I think it should challenge us to say, well, what is it? What is it about this thing that's breaking my heart right now? Is it letting go of what I thought I could have? Is it the fact that I've been disappointed again? Is it the fact that I'm even so attached to something that isn't good for me? Is it the fact that I'm learning something difficult about myself in this space? I think the most important thing that we can do in this space is just be real with ourselves and not run from it. Don't run from that harsh realization, because this grief is only going to be a moment. The Five of Cups talks about a period of grief that will end a period, a time of grief, a season of grief that isn't going to last forever. Something that's going to just allow us to. Grief is important. When something dies, there's a reason we don't just go on about our lives. Even when things die in the wild, there's a process, there's decomposition, there's returning to the earth, there's this new cycle, that comes in. So everything has to be in balance. And even though we're letting things go, even though we're saying goodbye to things, even though this is a period of the night, the night of the soul, the darkness of the soul, all of that shit that people talk about, these rough periods where we feel like we're suffering very, very badly, from depression and night terrors and not even being able to speak to ourselves or know who we are, those moments where we're feeling very, very deeply, about what we have to do. And it might not even be that deep for everybody. For some people, it just may be a bad day or two or a hard choice to make. But either way, we don't want to be in this place again because we've done so much work emotionally to grow and to expand and to know better and do better. We don't want to be in this space again where we're feeling like how we felt 10 years ago when we got our heart broken, or when we lost our job, when we realized we couldn't do something how we wanted to do. I think it's really important to remember to put what you want first. And remember that even when you aren't putting it first, God is putting it first. Even when you aren't prioritizing those things, God is. And thank God He is, because that's why we're still able to have those lessons when we're at our peak. Sometimes when we're at our peak, we don't want to, start having dreams about the past and start realizing that we're not done with the past. That's the last thing that we want to do. But hindsight is 20/20 for a reason. And there's a reason that there's certain things that we can't see until we get to a certain point. So I feel like this moment is about recognizing that and also letting that be something that makes us feel okay. Like we can feel okay that both of these things exist, that we can be in a space of experiencing, emotional intelligence, emotional growth, emotional security, emotional prosperity, getting what we need, giving what we need, just feeling secure, feeling protected, feeling provided for. We can feel this and also have moments where we have to let go. Also have moments where we're feeling like, dang, even though I've done all this work to be here, I still have to feel like this. What the hell, And that's just the name of the game. That's just something that we're going to have to experience and deal with. And I feel like that's definitely what we're experiencing now. But that's just a representation of how big this new season is going to be. And this is going to be different for everybody. For some of us, it's going to be issues within ourselves, like how we've let ourselves down, how other people have let us down, just even things that we've done in our past that we're able to get clarity on now and feel differently about. All of that is going to be coming into fruition. Also, we have the Two of Pentacles. This is about multitasking, doing things with ease, and just being very, being very fluid in everything that we have on our plate. The Two of Pentacles is the energy of, oh, I'm busy, but I got it. Oh, my plate is very, very full, but it's okay. It's the energy of feeling like I can do all things. I can manage all things. I can have all these things on my plate. I can be feeling really, really good, but still recognize that I'm in a period of darkness that needs my attention. So I can't get too lost in the good. I have to still give attention to, what needs to be healed within me. It's a space of grace, of flexibility. It's a space of not being too tethered to one outcome or one thought or one feeling. It's a space of being able to say, oh, I'm letting this go. Oh, I'm letting this go. It's a beautiful, beautiful, freeing space to be in. And we're definitely being called to stand in that space. We're definitely being called to just, come back to ourselves, come back to who we truly are, come back to who God wants us to be, come back to our gifts, come back to everything that we've been questioning and wondering, is it time? Am I ready? Am I prepared? Do I have enough? We're coming back to ourselves 110%. And, that flow is what's going to allow us to just always be able to encourage ourselves. And that's the most important thing. You have a day that you feel determines you're a failure because that's what you're telling yourself. Having a day that feels like the Five of Cups, having a day of grief when you've been feeling like you have everything together, that will absolutely make some people feel like all of my success means nothing now. All of the good means nothing because look at how bad I feel right now. We have to change our perspective. And I feel like this new moon is definitely challenging us to feel differently. It's saying like, how do you feel for real? How do you really feel? How do you really feel about where you're going, about what you're doing, about what's next? And we want to be mindful of that, now more than ever, and we want to just lock in. Ooh, let's get into it, guys. So we have the High Priestess. We have the High Priestess. I think we may have one more spread in this reading before it's wrapped up, because since we're pulling cards as we go, we never know where it's going to take us. But we have the High Priestess here, which is beautiful. The High Priestess is the front of this box, and I always love to see what card they choose for the front of the box. I'm just rambling. Let's keep going. High Priestess. We have the Eight of Pentacles, and we also have the Ten of Cups. Ah, how beautiful. The Ten of Cups. So let's get into this. With this High Priestess, this High Priestess is the energy, and with the Eight of Pentacles, an energy of being a scholar. I feel like the Eight of Pentacles is a scholar in the same way that the High Priestess is. But the High Priestess, we see, maybe being a little bit higher in importance and significance than the Eight of Pentacles, because the Eight of Pentacles is an apprentice, someone just getting started, someone in training. The High Priestess is someone that's learning from within, someone that's finding their wisdom from their life experiences, someone that is able to see the past, the future, the present very, very clearly, gain understanding from all of these things. I feel like we're a student of life in both spaces. Sometimes we may embody the High Priestess, sometimes we may be embodying the Eight of Pentacles, just getting started off, maybe feeling a little wonky, but doing what you have to build up that practice and build up that stamina, that spiritual stamina, that mental stamina, that will allow you to feel like the High Priestess all the time. I think we don't need to let our feelings in the present moment determine how we look at ourselves and how we feel at ourselves. And Virgos do that bad, okay? Virgos do that bad, which is why Virgos can kind of be unbearable. Sorry, Virgos. Sorry, Virgos. I don't mean to do it to y'all, but Virgos can kind of be unbearable, because a bad day for a Virgo means a life of failure. Okay? A bad day means, oh, I'll never have a good day again. A day as an apprentice is like, when will I ever be the teacher? How have I fallen to the student after being a teacher for so long? So I feel like we're welcoming in a new era of how we manifest, of how we want things for ourselves. And we're giving ourselves the freedom to really learn and really be who we need to be, because both of these things are in tandem. The High Priestess is the High Priestess because of the level of schooling, the level of humility, the level of learning, the level of, constantly breaking down what you've been taught and forming new opinions and new thought processes and new beliefs, and just being in that role, constantly. So don't underestimate the power of starting from scratch. Don't underestimate the power of starting from scratch. Don't underestimate the power of, just accepting that you don't know everything and being okay with that, and letting that be a space of excitement for you, rather than a space where you're not feeling comfortable because you're realizing what you don't know. Also, the Ten of Cups, beautiful, love, fairy tale endings, happiness, all of the beautiful things. This weekend I went to a very, very beautiful wedding that a lot of y'all probably attended online. Leo and Stunna got married. Mona Leo and Stunna for Vegas got married. I've been working with Leo for a little over a year now with her nonprofit, Stay One More Day. If you know, you've been seeing me, work with them. I've been making all of their content. I love Stay One More Day. I love the work that I do with them. So I was very excited to be able to go to the wedding. I didn't know what to expect for the wedding. I went by myself, so I really didn't know what to expect. A lot of people really didn't have plus ones. A lot of us really just showed up. But we were just friends, of the bride and the groom. And everybody that saw the wedding online and saw clips and footage from the wedding, and I have some stuff that I posted on my Instagram y'all can get into, but a lot of people, were so inspired by the love, the fellowship, the family. Everyone's speeches were so beautiful. And, I think that I bring that up to say we have to just see more love and see more beautiful things. And there's so much negativity that is being said around relationships, people getting pregnant for people getting engaged to people that's acting crazy with them. We have things that are happening where maybe under other circumstances we would appreciate it, but, we feel the way we feel about these things. So I think that it's very important to celebrate love and family, and friendship and fellowship and people coming together and supporting each other and crying together and supporting love and supporting family and supporting unity. I think that's very, very important. And I think we also need to kind of watch what we're consuming online, because I mean, I was at the wedding. It was beautiful. I saw a lot of beautiful things about the wedding, but I also saw people that posted and was like, I don't think she was happy. I can tell she wasn't really happy, all kind of shit, which obviously wasn't true because they was watching from their mama's basement. But that's no tea, no shade. The whole point is, no matter what we're doing, there's always going to be somebody that can say something from the outside looking in, which is why it's so key to let go of that perfectionism that tells us that our journey has to look a certain way. Like, even if the world wants to celebrate something, there's always going to be somebody somewhere in a mama basement that feels some type of way. And you have a lot of people in a mama basement talking about you, thinking negatively about you. I know you can feel it. We can all feel it. People are either stewing about how they're going to be stepping into something amazing, or they're stewing about how their life is over, and they are trying to figure out who else's life is a mess because their life is a mess. It's very clear right now how people feel, and it's very clear right now who has been turned every which way but loose by life this year. I mean, this has been a hard year for everybody. A lot of people have experienced a lot of loss, a lot of gains, a lot of grief, a lot of success. I've experienced and seen so many things in my own life. There's been weddings, there's been funerals, there's been babies, there's been families falling apart, families coming together, literally things starting and ending at the same time. Like, I think we've seen so many divorces where people are in relationships 6 months after they're, like, we're seeing so many things start and stop and start and stop. People literally have gotten married and divorced in the same year and married to somebody else. So I think it's really, really key to just reestablish our belief and our hope for beautiful love, for beautiful friendship, for beautiful family. And I think we just need to know that we can have what we want. The 10 of Cups is about having exactly what you want in love. It's about having the family you want, the friendship you want, loving yourself the way that you want, having love be exactly what you need in your life, exactly what you need in your life. And that's something that we can have. That is definitely something that we can have. And I think that we have to be careful what we allow to show us about love, and what we allow to, affect our perception of the love that we see in the world. So yeah, let's go ahead, guys, and wrap up our last spread for this new moon in Virgo partial solar eclipse message. I hope you guys have enjoyed this message. Let me know how you feel about it down below in the comments. If you would like to get a message to figure out how this eclipse is going to be affecting you, what's going to be showing up for you in the next 6 months, y'all. This energy is going to be sticking to us for a minute. So step in to the description box and get into a reading for yourself and see how this is going to be affecting you specifically. Now, let's go ahead and get into our final spread for this reading. So we have the 7 of Pentacles. 7 of Pentacles. We have the 6 of Wands. The 6 of Wands. And lastly, we have the 4 of Swords. So beautiful. With the 7 of Pentacles, 6 of Wands, 4 of Swords. I think this is a beautiful storyline to wrap up with. This horse is eating. She's eating y'all up. Okay. With this, energy, we are being reminded to find balance. Like I keep saying balance, but the 7 of Pentacles is about putting in that work, putting in that diligence, putting in that investment, thinking about where you're putting your time, your energy, being very specific about everything that you're doing. This is kind of like setting yourself up for that 8 of Pentacles, to be that perfect student, to be that perfect student of the game, that worker, that person that's learning from everything, that's consuming everything and able to flip it into something that's better for them. This is about preparing yourself for that. This new moon is really giving us a chance to change ourselves on a deep, deep, deep level. It's a chance to really be who we want to be, feel how we want to feel, do things differently, step into different things, set better boundaries, show up for ourselves, and really protect what we're trying to build. Also, with the 6 of Wands, this is about celebration. It's about happiness. It's about crossing the finish line. It's about being celebrated by people. It's about being a motivation, having people be like, wow, because you did it, I can do it. It's about training and finally seeing the fruits of your labor. So I feel like a lot of these things are going to be happening at once. We're going to be getting, rewards on the way as we're doing the work, which is quite literally what all of us always want, right? As we're doing in the work to get the manifestation, we're like, I need a little trinket along the way. I need a little freebie before I get to the finish line, So Those are going to be coming. And also with the Four of Swords, this is about rest, meditation, taking time to stay grounded, taking time to always go back to God, always go back to, reflection, always go back to how you've been feeling and what's been showing up for you. So I think we really want to make sure that we honor all parts of this new journey. Don't get too caught up in the doing that you forget to take a break. Don't get too caught up in the work, in the student, that you forget that you're also in a place of success already and you can also celebrate. Don't get too caught up in celebration that you forget to rest, or that you forget to go back to the drawing board, or that you forget that you're not a failure because you have to maybe make a mistake. Don't get too caught up in the pedestal of it all. Don't get too caught up in, making yourself so humble and making yourself work and ain't no sleep until, don't get too caught up in any space. Appreciate the journey as a whole, commit to the journey as a whole, and know that each part is equally as important. Every part of this journey that we're stepping into is valuable. It's important. We can't have one without the other, and all of these things are leading us exactly to where we need to be. So yeah, how did you guys feel about this tea? I loved that. I got what I needed, period. Let me know how you guys felt about this message. I thought this was a really, really beautiful message for us. Again, these energies are going to be sticking around for a long time. So we want to be ready. We want to have in our minds, who we want to be. And we also want to know what we've been beating ourselves up for. And we want to make sure that we're just, motivating ourselves to go forward, trust the process and just continue to soar and be who we need to be. So yes, I appreciate y'all. I thank you guys for being here. As always, stay tuned for all of the new videos that we have on the way. And yes, as always, if you guys want a private reading and see how this new moon is going to be affecting you specifically, or if you just want to get a little bit deeper into the details about what you can be expecting, get into it in the description box. I love you guys as always, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys. Bless.